Power of One, episode 4. We are at something like 2,500 views at the time of recording, which is awesome. I'm Neil Robertson, a self-employed marketing consultant, and I'm co-hosting this podcast with Paul McNabb, a Liverpool-based psychotherapist. Welcome, Paul.
Hello.
In this episode, we are going to talk about self-sabotage and how it manifests itself in people. So, Paul, really easy and hard question to start with. What is self-sabotage in the broadest terms?
So self-sabotage is pretty much what we can all do on a daily basis. We all will do it on a daily basis, but it goes from a very small scale to the biggest scale. So it's sort of what we spoke about in other podcasts where we're talking about our thoughts. But this self-sabotage, the reason why I want to do this podcast is we're talking about the actions. So we can all have intrusive thoughts, we can all have negative thoughts, but when it comes to self-sabotage into actions, this then affects our life, doesn't it? It affects the people around us, it affects our world. So the more negative thoughts we have, the more self-sabotage will come into play then, because we sort of get what we think. So if you're on a diet and there's a packet of biscuits there, this is a basic one where a lot of people do this and then they'll go, yeah, I'll just have a couple. And then they get like four. And then they'll hate themselves for having that. So the self-sabotage is, I want that treat, but I'm going to give myself so much shit for eating that treat that it's poison. And
Yeah.
diets and things like that, it often comes into play because it's our thoughts, isn't it? Our thoughts affect it. And people with drink and drugs and things like that, if you regret it, so on a Saturday night, you're in a bar, you're drinking, everything's okay. But then the Sunday, you wake up and you're like, why did I drink so much? I shouldn't have had them shots. Oh, you piece of shit. What was I saying? Oh, and then anxiety starts coming in, doesn't it? Because you're doubting yourself. So all these are self-sabotage, but obviously jails are full. That's a lot of the time it's self-sabotage. If someone can't control themselves and they might get angry or they might take it out, that can lead to people murdering people. So that's self-sabotage, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because they're destroying their life, but they're also destroying someone else's life.
Mhm.
So it can go the full scale then into suicide and things like that. There's so many elements of self-sabotage, but they start off on a small scale and everyone will do them. But it's at what scale you're doing it. You're acting on self-sabotage.
Mhm.
People with gambling, people with addictions, people cheating, all these things are self-sabotage because if it's having a counter effect and it's having a negative effect. But the problem is if these thoughts are saying, this is a brilliant idea, because they obviously are backing it up, aren't they, for you to do it?
Mm.
So that's the self-sabotage where you're convincing yourself, no, this is a good idea. But then once the enjoyment goes, the reality kicks in of, well, hang on, I shouldn't have done that. So it's then the regret, isn't it? And when we're all living with this self-sabotage, these thoughts all the time, it's so easy to fit into that pattern of behavior where self-sabotage is a part of your day-to-day life. People who lie, if people who lie all day long, that's self-sabotage because then no one trusts you once they find out that you're a liar, or they don't. Even more, it's that you're lying to you. So if you're not good enough and you've got to lie to people to pretend you are good enough, what do you think that tells our mind? So the self-sabotage can work in all these different ways. And I said this to you, it's like it goes so broad because it affects everything. And this is the day to day. And this is why it's so important to control thoughts, because if we don't control thoughts, we just keep repeating patterns of behavior, which is the self-sabotage.
How much of what you've just said there is conscious and unconscious? So, how often would you say people are consciously aware that they're self-sabotaging versus people who may not actually know that the actions they're taking are bad for them? Like, because I guess it really depends on the person and the action they are taking. But generally speaking, how much of self-sabotage do you feel is a conscious choice or an unconscious action?
Well, you've just described it really. It's totally unique on the individual. So, like a narcissist, their self-sabotage is like off the scale because their whole world revolves around them. Whereas for people like us, we overthink and we'll apologize to people and we'll regret things and you dwell on it. So if you upset someone, it gets to you, doesn't it? So you feel bad and you've got all these other things. So that's part of your self-sabotage because if maybe it's someone close to you, you've upset them, you knew at that time you were going to upset them, but because you're so close to them, you were allowed to be more relaxed and you took it out. And we've all done this, haven't we? So we take it out on the person close to you. So a little argument over something's being left out, but it's because you're tired or throughout the day you've been pissed off. And that's your self-sabotage then, because you might dwell on it. You've pissed this other person off and you didn't want to do that.
Mm.
And you're like, oh shit, I can't do anything right. So see, that's a self-sabotage where you'll get other people who, if you don't admit fault, your life then becomes self-sabotage because we learn from our faults. And
Mm.
as we mature and as we get more wise, we should stop doing the things that create these dramas, that create this self-sabotage. So you want a peaceful life. And you can't get a peaceful life if you've got self-sabotage going on all the time.
Yeah. And then
So it causing arguments just for the sake of a bit of excitement in your life. There's so many people out there who do that, but they're not conscious they're doing it. And they might have been brought up in a family where there was arguing a lot. And right the way through the life, I say to clients sometimes, we can work out every few weeks, every 3 weeks, you might have an argument. And they're like, shit. And it's because they're so used to living in an environment where they might have peace for a couple of weeks, but then it doesn't feel normal to them. So then they both might clash and then they feel better.
is it
They've
like
both
that?
got an offload.
All I was going to say was, do you find that that happens a lot in things like romantic relationships and friendships where someone
Mm.
is so used to people talking to them like shit that when
Yeah.
people don't treat them that way, it's almost like a sort of like they don't know what to do, they don't know how to react. So eventually they will just kind of revert to type and they're almost looking to get that feeling back again.
Yeah, well, that's what I'd say. Friendships probably create that more than romantic relationships, because often in romantic relationships, someone's made to feel great, aren't they? Or that you can trust this person. Whereas you go to your friends, and as I spoke about before, male friends often take the piss. So that little bit of banter, but that might remind you of school days. That might, and this is why I think fellas, when they're together, they're very childish, aren't they? So they get into that little phrase where they're giving each other shit, but there's no harm done because at this surface level, sometimes it's deeper, but I'm on about the surface level stuff where for females, there's a lot more socializing in groups where there's judgment going on. It's seen in a different way. I always refer to like Pride the Lions and things like that. Females are a lot stronger in that mind sense because the self-care kicks in. Where for men, if you're there stressed and then they go to their friends and they're only having banter and they're only like taking the piss or talking about footy, no one's ever listening to them, are they? So they've got no outlet of these thoughts. So when they do that, where's it going? Where's the thoughts going? Whereas females are a lot better at that because they can communicate, they can go and actually speak to their friends about maybe what's going on for them. So the self care is a lot better. Women have got a lot like better survival skills than men.
Mm.
Men just keep it all in and then tend to isolate themselves. And when men get to a certain age, this is the self sabotage. They stop doing anything. They stop socializing as much. When you ask most fellas into like the 50s, 60s, and most of them haven't got friends.
Mm.
It's weird, isn't it? They
Well,
might have friends in like the social club or the pub they go to, but they're not really the friends because they only ever see them if they go to that place. They're never like round the house or they've never really got someone to speak to. And I suppose it goes back in the generations of men didn't speak about the feelings, whereas the younger generations now, they're sort of adapting more and speaking about feelings, aren't they?
they are, but I've even had that light bulb moment going back to something you said a moment ago, where I even said to my friend, my group of friends, sorry, like we only ever meet at the pub or we only ever meet in noisy environments, and how can we possibly get to know each other, or how can we possibly discuss our feelings or the problems we're experiencing in a noisy pub? Like every time we meet, and all we do is take the piss out of each other or talk about surface level things, whereas COVID was quite a good sort of, I'd call it like a light bulb moment, a step change. It was like a switch went off where we were going on walks in the beach, we were going to each other's houses, we were opening up more, we were talking more about how we were feeling. And like maybe then we weren't self-sabotaging as a collective as much as we were before. You can never
But
know that.
you,
I felt that.
you're missing work friends though, and you sort of, and what you look at as well, out your friends group, there'll be certain people who you were doing that with. It wasn't all of you, was it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was only certain,
So,
only
so
certain
see,
people.
see, but a lot of people worked this out during COVID, I think, because at first it was all fucking great for people, wasn't it? Let's do online quizzes, all this other shit. But then towards the end, it's who was checking in on you, who was seeing if you're all right. And as you do get older, it stops. So as I said, men are more affected by that because they don't communicate then. So
Yeah,
no one's asking them how they are, and I think especially men when they get to retirement, if you're used to being in a work environment and then that goes, who've you got? And most men by that age haven't got hobbies, they haven't got these, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm speaking out in general. So they'll tend to have vices then. So it might be them smoking or it might be them drinking, but that's their only escape, isn't it? But I'm trying to get people not to escape. If we process our thoughts and speak out loud, you see that it works. It's just changing your mindset. Because if you don't, you take over, the self-sabotage just took over, hasn't it? If you're a man and you go, there's no point in speaking about my feelings, but I feel lonely, I feel isolated. But when I go out,
well,
we only speak about
how,
football,
how
we only
else do you
speak about
channel that
certain
energy?
things.
Because you could channel that energy in really bad ways, really unproductive ways, where it's like you've got to, like I remember something that Graham Souness said on Sky Sports that I found really powerful, talking about racism in football. So you get football spectators that will direct racist chants at players.
Yeah,
And Graham Souness made the point that some of these, because it was men who were doing it, like they were caught on camera,
yeah, yeah,
some of these men may not get a word in edgeways at home. So when they go to the football, that's their way of channeling that
yeah.
energy, but it's just in completely the wrong way.
But,
And that's a
but
form of self-sabotage.
But see, it's that part, isn't it, of us wanting to be part of the group, which we just spoke about before. So for men who are isolated, they might not have a big friends group or even any friends other than work friends. So when they go to football, they're part of something.
Yeah.
So they'll sing songs, like most men will stick up for the football team more than they will themselves.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah, it's like, and it blows my mind because you're like, this club doesn't know who you are. They'll know you by your seat number or whatever, do you know what I mean? And you're paying them, and it's like, we don't support, like, I think I mentioned it before that was on the podcast about, like, you don't support like Coca-Cola or
Oh, yeah,
Pepsi
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, but if you're part of a team where you think you are and you're sitting there and you're defending it, you're part of an army, aren't you? And
So,
when these like sort of people are part of an army, they think they can shout stuff and they can be all, but yeah, they're taking their anger out on the world, aren't they? But through the channeling it through another thing, and people do it with politics, people do it with everything. They'll join a group and stand for that, the rights of that. But if you say to them as an individual, what about you? People will do it with the kids, people will do it with the partners and stuff like that. Like, I'm very protective over people around me, so my defense has always been stronger for others than it has been for me.
mm,
You get what I mean? But I wouldn't do it for a football team. I wouldn't do it for like the country, even in a way, if like standing up and going, well, I'm going to go to war. I'm going to be a soldier. I'm going to kill people for the name of the country. You've got to have some sort of part of you that goes, well, I want to be part of something bigger than me. And when you're that, you get control, don't you? So there's a lot of like sheep mentality in that then. So the fella next to you is shouting and he's a bit racist. So you might get a fella who's a bit of a Billy No Mate, and then he starts, well, I can be with him. And he might start shouting shit, and then they're caught on camera and he's like, shit, I'm not really racist. It was him next to it. But it's the mentality is so easy, and it's this chain where if you're not strong enough to stand up for yourself, you will often follow packs. So
mm,
look at teenage boys when they start smoking and things like that. You've got to be strong in that group to go, no, I'm not smoking. Or teenage boys when they start getting drugs and things like that, and they go, well, you've got to be strong in a group, haven't you, to say no?
mm.
So if you haven't got the confidence to say no, see how easily led you are.
Well, I want to touch on that a bit more because where you've talked there about teenage boys, I want to go back to the very beginning. So, in your opinion, and again, I know this will vary from individual to individual, but where do you think self-sabotage in most cases stems from? Like, where does it begin for most people, and then how does it kind of grow from there?
Well, it's childhood, isn't it? So straight away, if you've got, give you an example. So if your parents say to you, right, you've got to be in at 9 o'clock, and you go, fuck you, I'm coming at 10 o'clock. If your
Not too
parents don't,
bad.
if your parents don't punish you for that or sort of make you aware that they've been worried or whatever, then you could keep taking the piss. Now you might then do that for attention, So
Yeah.
you get this in families where it's like, so say if the kid's got younger siblings,
Mhm.
then they might feel like the parents give all them attention. And this is what, like, a lot of kids get diagnosed with ADHD and stuff like that for this reason, because they're not getting the right attention. And their only way of getting attention then is negative. So if they're not getting attention at home and then in school they're not getting attention, the only way is to be naughty, is to stand out.
Mm.
So they get used to it then. They get used to this mentality that, well, I'm going to get negative attention. And then after school, what is it? It's the court system, isn't it? It's jail. And then they're getting attention in jail. Like some of these documentaries about prison and things like that, you feel sorry for some of them because you realise that outside the jail, they've got nothing. They've got no one who cares for them. So they go to jail, they're getting looked after all the time. They're getting 3 meals a day. So they love it. So it's
That's
not really a punishment for them, isn't it? And it's sad that like people have got to go to jail to feel that sort of control in a way where it's almost like a mother and father thing, isn't it? Where get to your room, here's your dinner, go to bed early, lights out. So it's making them feel like a child, isn't it? To control.
Is it like some sort of perverse form of validation that these kids are looking for? And the reason I say kids is because if when you're younger, let's say, you get negative attention, but it's some form of attention that you may feel like you've been lacking and you're filling a void. But then say when you go to prison, like you see this a lot, not just in Liverpool, you see it all over the country, but like you see these people who take pride in having been to prison loads of times and
Yeah.
like fuck the police and all this kind of stuff and they just sort of get this like kick out of it, which I can't understand, but that's because obviously my childhood was different. But do you see that a lot in people, or do you think that is something that's quite
Yeah.
common?
But see, that's part of the problem, because if you're part of a group, once again, the group thing. So if you're part of a gang or you're part of a culture in an area where young kids have got to fit in, so it might be cool, mightn't it, for one of them to go to jail. They might come out with a bit more like notorious then. Oh, look, he's been
Yeah.
to jail, you know what I mean? And then straight away, I remember on one of the prison documentaries, there's this lad, and like he's talking about when he went to jail, and it's about not going to jail. So he's sort of changed since then. But he's like, I think it's like Durham or something. He's like, I remember as a kid, my dad was in there, and all I wanted when I was older was to go in there. He said, so I remember on my first sentence, I was so excited to be going in. And you're watching it and going, but he's explaining it in a good way, because he's come the other side where he's going, look how stupid it was. Basically, I was looking forward to it. So he wanted to commit crime, he wanted to fit in. So you've got groups who sort of, it's okay for them to have gone to jail. They don't learn from it, where they go, well, my brother's been to jail or my dad's been to jail, so I don't want to go to jail. But if the only way they can get attention, it's sad, isn't it? It's like in these schools where like kids are going, there's units and things like that. It's very rare that a kid in there, like it will happen now and again, but it's very rare where they've got both parents who are so loving and they give the child attention.
Yeah.
Often it's single parents, and they're struggling with the kid. They might have other siblings, and the parent just hasn't got time to give the kid that attention.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
if
yeah.
the parent doesn't know this, though, if the parent hasn't been given the right attention, it's unfair to blame them. Like, how can they know something that they don't know? How can they teach their child something they don't know?
It's a cycle of self-sabotage. And again, and not to make this a Liverpool-centric episode, but I was just watching the thing on YouTube last night. It was called Young Guns Liverpool, and it was from around the time of the Reece Jones killing. And it spoke to a mother of a kid, and it was in Norris Green, and the kid in the bearing in mind this is 2007, 2008. This would have been filmed, and the kid that is like running around in the house, and she's like, "You're not going out, you're grounded," blah blah blah, and you can tell she's at her wit's end, well out of her depth. She's raising three kids on her own. One of those kids went to jail for like 16 years for murder when he got older, but it's a cycle of self-sabotage because I guess she might have element like traits of it, not not through any fault of her own, but she's just grown up in that, and then she gives birth to kids who are growing up without a dominant father figure or even like any kind of father figure in the house, and then they may have kids of their own, and then they get into the cycle, and it's just never ending.
But see, poverty comes into that then, doesn't it? Because say you've got a young boy, and this always happens, where they sort of have to become the man of the house then.
Yeah.
So he's looking around and he's going, well, I can't get a job because I'm probably dyslexic, I'm probably this, I've got ADHD, I've got so written off in school. So he looks around and he sees who's driving nice cars and who's going around in Rolexes and all that, and they go, oh, sell drugs. And then they get into that whirlwind, you know what I mean, where it's part of a gang and it's the culture of the area. And the mum can't do anything because he then devalues his mum because he doesn't respect her because she's got no money.
Yeah.
And then kids get into that mentality, but you only respect people who've got money. Like I used to think when I was a kid, I used to look at nice cars and stuff, and I used to think you must have to be like dead clever and like dead successful to have like a nice car. I used to think people deserved what they got. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think like it's bad, isn't it? What you think as a kid?
Well,
Like I used
the
to think
world is
like, oh,
completely different. Yeah.
they must really deserve that car.
Yeah.
They've worked really hard for that car, and then as you get older, you're like, oh, some people get given cars, some people have got company cars, and it doesn't really matter. But it's that emphasis of what you think as a kid, and kids are so easily led. And I think we mentioned it last time, didn't we, about like Andrew Tate and things like that. But you've also got for females like this Bonnie Blue or whatever the name is, and it's like but it's so bad, and it's like that's mental health though, where this girl's probably going to end up killing herself or something like that because it'll mentally affect her.
Yeah.
She's thinking she's wild now, and you've got other young girls who are following and OnlyFans and all things like that. And it's like people need to look at both male and females. We can't just judge and go, well, we've got men who are like this because we're producing females who are like this. Do you get what I mean? And there's two sides to it then where you've got men who are going, well, I need to be old school. And then they're living in a world where that doesn't fit in.
Yeah. Did you tell me about this experiment? And it's like it's a thought I've got in my head, and I'm trying to like scramble words together to make sense of it. So hopefully you can help me a bit here. But like when they test mice, so they might test a substance on a mouse like drugs or something like that, like not that's going to kill them or anything, but basically, and then if the mouse then obeys them, it gets given more cheese. But like scientists are always doing this, where they're basically doing
Mhm.
experiments with mice,
There's
and
ones with cocaine and rats, isn't there, and things
like
like that,
cocaine and
and the
rats.
way they set it out then.
But to me, what you're saying there, what where I'm basically getting to with this is shallow rewards. Now, someone like Bonnie Blue or anyone on OnlyFans will make loads of money. Like they'll make millions and millions off it, but it's a shallow reward. But in their head, they're like, I do this, I get this reward. I'm happy. They tell
But see, the
themselves that.
self-sabotage in it, the self-sabotage in it is because we should be respectful of ourselves, really, and yeah, anyone can do what they want to do, but it comes with a consequence. And
Yeah.
anyone can back that up, and anyone can go, "Oh yeah, it's okay." They're all like with that, but like there's so many suicides like in America with like the porn industry and all things like that, and you just think it's obviously mentally affecting people. And when people are encouraging it all the time, it's like you can see how the knock-on effect where we don't want a society where young people think they've got to sell themselves to be successful because it's not success, is it? It's money. So see the difference?
Or same with
There's a
gambling.
big difference, isn't it?
Gambling, you said earlier, gambling, a
Yeah.
lot of young lads on a weekend, what are they going to do? They're going to take a load of cocaine, put accumulators down on football games,
Yeah.
and because they want money, but again, shallow rewards.
But also, is it because they want money or is it because they're part of a group who all do that? Because as I've just
It's
said,
probably
you need to be strong, don't you?
yeah, it's
So you
probably
get a group of lads and they'll all put a bet on, or they'll all like go to the pub to watch the game, or they might all like get cocaine, or they might take other drugs together. So it's all part of a group.
yeah,
Now, as they get older and they get more wise, and life changes, doesn't it? So they're not always going to do that, but that's been a part of the life. But you might get two of them lads who do still do it, and see where the problem starts kicking in then, because you get then these fellas who don't want to grow up
yeah,
and they're stuck in it. And then I'm only speaking about men more, obviously, because we're both male, and I can't really speak for women's perspective on it. But it's this part of us of this self-sabotage, and this is what I'm saying. So if we love ourselves and respect ourselves, yes, we can do what we want with our own body, but is there going to be consequences in the future? So it stems into the religions and all things like that. It's like living by something, isn't it? So if we live by our own values and belief rather than told by a religion or told by a society, it's we all know what's good and bad. So if we can change what's good and bad, that's dangerous, isn't it?
See, you got me thinking there about religion. That could almost be a whole other podcast in itself. But do you think religion has a part to play in self-sabotage? Because that's obviously,
100%.
yeah, because I was thinking that's one form of self-sabotage that you and I have never really discussed before. But when you said it there, I was like, oh my God, yeah, it
But
is.
see the values and beliefs in religion, it's like they're so contradictory, and it's like I question everything. So I've looked into all different religions, and like I've got respect for all of them because I believe in some of the things they say, but I don't believe in the rules. I don't believe in the rules of what and how they act. I don't think if you're religious that you can go out killing in the name of religion. It's sort of the first rule break, isn't it? But so many religions will happily break their own rules. So if you've got a God, it can't be changed, whether modern society wanted to change or not. If that's written in stone by a God, how can it adapt over hundreds of years, and how can it change, and how can, because most people don't realize even the Bible, it wasn't in English. I can't remember what year they changed, but it was only like a few hundred years ago where they changed it into English. And when they changed it into English from the Hebrew version, it changed where the Hebrew version says gods. And when it was changed to England, that's only when in English, that's when it changed over to God.
Yeah.
So if you look into the history of stuff, how can you have such like values and beliefs in something if you don't really know your history?
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing of being an Everton fan. I've always questioned the song if you know your history. So I like knowing my history. I
Yeah.
do like knowing the history on things, because the more you look into your past, that's what we've got to do for ourselves. So everything we see on the external part is the trick. What's going on inside? So the more we question the outside world, the more we question the inside world. And the inside world is what matters.
Mm.
What we like and what we don't. So back to what I was just saying is like the good and the bad. So if you can convince yourself that anything can be good, that's dangerous, isn't it? So, for example, if you go, right, I'm going to be a gigolo. I'm going to go out and sleep with loads and loads of women. I'm going to be this like top fella who's sleeping with all these women. I'm a stud, all this bollocks. Now, you meet a girl who you really like and you tell her what you've done. She might go, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
So then you won't feel worthy. You won't feel, because the person who you wanted then doesn't want you. So
Yeah.
see, I was saying before about like for females and things, it's having that self-respect, but male and females should both have their own self-respect, because like for male and females, losing the virginity, it's a big thing, isn't it? It's a big thing for them. But in the modern society, it's treated like it's not. And I think for girls, I think they've got a lot more, because they can pick and choose where fellas can't as much. It's a lot harder for men to sort of sleep with a woman, or to sleep. It's a lot harder because it takes your confidence, it takes the self-sabotage. Most men, like, I wouldn't say, yeah, maybe most men, but definitely over 50% of men have got no self-belief. So they wouldn't just go up to a girl in a bar and say hello and speak to her and say. So that's why online dating seems to have took over, where for me, that's the furthest from reality you can get, because you've got females getting like hundreds and hundreds of messages off all different types of fellas, and fellas might get no messages. So the fellas become the hunters. So they're trying to hunt for something, and then it's whether they get replies. It's whether, so see this. It's not real.
Then the
So
self-sabotage kicks in, doesn't it? Like the
yeah,
self-sabotage.
but see all these thoughts. So you might have this belief that, oh well, no one likes me then because you're on this online thing. But you've got women who are getting hundreds of messages all the time because men are hunting them, and then they get that attention off it. And some women then get addicted to it, where they're on dates all the time. So then they ruin it for themselves because they meet someone who they like. And the fella might go, well, no, I don't want to go out with a serial dater. Do you get what I mean? And all these so someone goes online because they're lonely and ends up getting loads of attention, and then they become more lonely because no one wants them then in their own head. And in reality, people judge. So people judge all the time, and it's like, and quite rightly so, if it goes against your values and beliefs, who's someone else to challenge that? So if you're religious, for example, and you need to marry a virgin and you're a virgin and in the Catholic faith, but you find someone and they've slept with loads of people, your religion won't allow you to do it. So your family wouldn't be able to know it, and you might see how bizarre it can get, but it's not going off someone's own beliefs then, it's going off rules, isn't it? So then it goes outwards. Now, if we can believe in ourselves, if we can forgive, if we can sort of not judge, the world would be better. But unfortunately, that's not how it is. There's so many judgmental people out there. People will write you off based on what you've done. So back to like online stuff, male and female, you put something online, that could jeopardize your jobs in future, couldn't it? Because companies now do research on you, and someone who's maybe put a racist comment online. You see it all the time with like famous people, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Where they've said a comment 7 years ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, look what this person said." So it doesn't hide from you. And if there's photographs of you online, then that follows you as well. So people don't think, they think in the moment of, that's what I'm saying with the thought, what I'm doing is right for me. And you get other people around them encouraging them. Oh, you go, girl, you go, mate. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. When is it?
just on that point, that's really interesting that you said that because straight away a question came to my head, which is about the importance of a not necessarily support network, but having a network of people around you who are going to help you break the cycle of self-sabotage. So what I mean by that is if you have friends and family in your life who self-sabotage in their own way and actually may do the same as you in a lot of cases, like, where you say you go girl and they endorse this kind of behavior, and men who don't call out shitty behavior within their mates when they
Yeah.
might come in, like, they might commit a sexual assault or say something misogynistic, or they might do something worse than that, whatever. you know, is it, what role do you think that a support network plays in helping people break out of this cycle of self-sabotage behavior?
Well, it's got to be very vague, hasn't it, when it's support network? Because
Yeah.
is it support or is it people encouraging your bad behaviour? Because
Well,
that's
that's
not
what I
really,
mean. So to getting the right people in your life, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's not really, it could be sensed in, oh, well, is that support? Because it's not a lot of the time when it's self-sabotage. So if you've got friends who sort of encourage you to
Yeah.
be a gang member and they go and stab that person or go and, there's normally manipulation involved in that. And then that's when it normally kicks into narcissism and things like that. You get people sort of controlling other people. So
Yeah.
someone in an office, like sort of downgraded a little bit rather than a gang situation. In an office space, someone sort of tells you that, oh, Sue in the office or something, she doesn't like you. So straight away, you might think, well, what? Why doesn't this woman like me? So then you might start disliking her, and she might come into the car. But see how it can go off just one person. So what I'm getting at is, if you trust this person who's told you,
Yeah.
they could be the manipulator. They could be the shit stirrer. So this is what I'm getting on about. It. If you go to friends and they want to see you fail, that's not support, is it?
No. We see
So
all
it's a
the
negative where you're influenced by them, then, aren't you? So back to the football game as well. So if there's a group where they're shouting racist chants, the weak person who's a part of that group might shout something, but they're only doing it because they're so. See how easy it is to influence others if we haven't got our own strength.
I've got a story that ties in exactly with what you've just said there. So I was in a taxi once with this guy, this older fella, and he basically said, I was taking this group of girls back home from a night out, and there were four of them, and trying to think how many people fit in a taxi. I say four people, or it might have been five or six because it was like a black cab, so obviously you can get a few more people in. He basically said what was happening was one by one they were obviously getting dropped off, and when someone got dropped off, they'd all bitch about her, and then when the next person got dropped off, she'd get out the taxi. And the remaining passengers would bitch about her, then the next person, and they'd bitch about her. Now, if you've got no one in that group saying this is really not good, this isn't healthy behavior, this is self-sabotage, we need to kick this out, then everybody carries on that same cycle. And like you see that in work, I see people who are part of toxic cliques where, do you know what, they'll bitch about everyone else, but they also, for a fact, if they talk about other people that way, they'll talk about you that way. And so
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question about, like, and it can apply to everything: football, gangs, mates who aren't good for you, which we've talked about in other podcasts. Like, if you've got no one on the outside, and this is why I say the outside, it's so important sometimes to have that outside perspective, which is where someone like you is so valuable to say, not to be like as harsh as this, but almost to say, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you, letting this happen to you? And those are just some examples of how that manifests
It's
itself.
someone holding the mirror up to you, isn't it? Of the truth of reflecting back to you what you're saying to yourself and how you feel, because that's when you wake up, that's when you start understanding. And psychotherapy for me is just trying to find the truth. And it's only our own truth. It might not match up with someone else's truth, but it's what our own truth is. So you're just trying to see the world through reality rather than the sugarcoating. So when you describe, say, friends or work colleagues, but they don't like it or that they bitch and all that. And every workplace has got a narcissist who's like the office shit stirrer and like they get away with it. Because why? Because we validate it and it takes strength to take these people on because they will try and destroy you if you try and label them.
Mm.
So if you do stand up to them, so that person in the taxi or whatever, if they said, listen, stop talking about like them like that, they as soon as they get out the taxi, they're going to be getting the shit. Oh, did you hear what she said? Or did you hear what he said? So that's how it works, isn't it? And this goes for male and female. And this is where I always say about it. This is where I see the word bitch humor coming in. And
Yeah.
that's where you pick up on it. People who use bitch humor, males and females, both use it. So it's saying something which isn't funny. It's bullying.
Yeah.
It's comments that put someone else down where it's not really funny. Do you know what I mean? And you do get it a lot. And females a lot more like the female pride, where
Yeah.
there's got to be a top woman in the group. Where men, yeah, you have that where there's an alpha and things like that. But I think for men, especially when they get to like mid 30s, 40s, they become a lot more placid. Men find it easier to see where they fit into a group. So in a group of men, you'll see some men just fade away. They like, I'm no competition to anyone in the room. I'll just sit down here. And if there's any big decisions, I won't be making them. So
Yeah.
they're happy for an alpha to come in and go, I'll make the decisions.
Yeah.
Whereas for females, you might have a few like sort of dominant females in the group who go, hang on, I want to be top of the group.
Yeah.
Because they might be cock of their house or they might be cock of their family in the way of I rule the roost. Whereas men, you get it, and with men, there's a lot of bravado, and obviously you do get like fellas who are very like alpha, where it's not about being alpha, it's just about being safe in your own body. So when you're confident and you're in control of yourself, that can sometimes come across as alpha, can't it?
Mm.
So men, like a man who doesn't feel strong in a group, have they got the confidence to speak about the feelings?
No, and I think like well, certainly not in some of the groups that I've been in anyway. And you know, it's interesting really because sometimes when you do point certain things out or you try to go in a different direction, I think you sometimes find out who self-sabotages more than others. You know, like where you use the example there of when the ringleader gets challenged in a female
Yeah,
friendship group. But I've had it before within my own friendship groups, you know, in years gone by where I've challenged shitty behavior. And you can tell the people who are comfortable enough in their own skin to just go, okay, I'm going to break the cycle. I won't do that anymore. And then the ones who just want to live by it because that's all they've ever known. But again, it's that I think it is going back to what I said before. It's that kind of shallow reward system where it's like, you know, I'm not just saying specific to me, but you know, pick on that person or pick on that person or give that person shit, and you'll give yourself a kind of reward of sorts because it's, you know, it's what you know. Whereas when someone says to you, "I don't want you doing that anymore," I think some people can feel quite threatened by that. You know, even in
yeah.
our
I mean, that's immature though, isn't it? If you say to someone, someone can't learn from it, that person's immature, and it doesn't matter their age. It's if someone can't be told they've done something wrong and register that fact, then there's a problem, isn't it? So then that'll go to childhood then of discipline. So you get children then who don't get disciplined. And they might never get in trouble. They might not be criminals, but they don't get disciplined. This is so important. And once again, male and females are affected by this. So if they never do anything wrong in their own head, if they're never punished, then there's no consequence in life, is there?
we've seen this on. I mean, like I'll give you a classic example, and do you know what? I sometimes feel a tinge of guilt watching videos like this because they've been put up on YouTube and monetized for entertainment. But there's a channel on YouTube called Code Blue Cam, which is basically police dash cam videos from the US. And you can imagine the sorts of people that you see on these channels where it's like young women in particular, aged like 18 to 21, and they'll get arrested for DUI or drug possession or speeding or something like that. And they'll scream and shout and they'll cry. People ask the question in the comments, have they ever been told no before? And look, some of them might not have been, but like I do feel guilty when I watch them. This is why I've stopped watching them really, because it's like we shouldn't really be putting these people out there front and center to basically be laughed at and be entertainment, because that's what it feels like to me. But I just wanted to say that really because that's something I've seen a lot on YouTube is these dash cam videos with men and women, but mostly women where like they'll react in a way that where they feel like threatened by the situation or like they've not been told no before, but then they'll go, "This is what happens when you know your dad never tells you no or something like that," and it's just like I don't know. I find it quite a hard watch to be honest at times.
That's a good example, though. But see, for you watching it and you see a female crying and you said you feel sorry, so have you got empathy for the female?
Yeah,
So if it's a male crying, have you got empathy for him?
yeah. It's an interesting question
So
because
be honest, so be really honest though.
no,
How do you
not,
react? So a man
it's not.
starts crying, what do you say? Try and be as honest as possible.
No, I do put myself in that position because I felt vulnerable before, but it may just be the role of gender in society where, again, you like, you know, and
But why, if we want equality, this is where
yeah,
like
no, no, I know,
I always bang on about. It's like if a female gets in trouble and starts crying,
yeah,
have men not been programmed to feel sorry for females, but do we feel sorry for men if they cry?
I
Or
do.
have we been told to stop crying?
Yeah, it's interesting actually because you say that, like, and it has really got me thinking. Like, I would feel sorry for them, but it would depend what they were crying over. You know, like where there is a bit of you, and it sounds really bad to say this, but like you'd be like, come on, you're a man. Don't. Why are you crying about something like this? Just, you know, it's not that big of a deal because you just
Yeah.
naturally think of women as being more emotional. Now, obviously, like I know that's not, you know, entirely true.
I
Um,
mean, before I started like doing my job, like I'd never really seen men crying that much because
no,
of my family and background. I'd never really seen men cry, and it's like, but automatically for me, because of my values and beliefs,
yeah,
if I see the female upset, I would automatically probably go into rescue mode a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now that's because of growing up and all these other things. So it's like, but obviously now being a psychotherapist and see, I show a lot of empathy towards men as well who
yeah,
get upset. So I let them sit with it and I can deal with them both equally. But it took me a lot of years of work and sort of understanding to get that point because do you know why? Because I didn't have empathy for me. So
yeah.
I had to learn empathy for me. So I was always quite open. I've always been a bit of a crier, do you know what I mean? So it's like I've always been quite open about it. Where for some funerals I've been to, I've literally been like uncontrollable. Where I'm like, "Fucking hell, please stop crying." Well, it's because I used to build my emotions up until I got to this point of crying. But I always found it as a good outlet. But for like my granddad, I'd never seen my granddad cry, but then at my nan's funeral, that really like got to me. Then, do you know what I mean? And I think for my dad, see, my uncles, his uncles, so my great uncle's funeral, and it sort of hits you somewhere because you've never seen it, and it takes you by surprise. But what I'm getting at is that we are sort of raised more to treat women differently than men. And this is a thing, and if society needs to change, we need to adapt where we go. Male and females both have emotions. Male and females both need
There's a
to.
great example of self-sabotage in a way, because if you think to yourself that it's like, you know, even men my age and possibly younger, where they think, well, men don't cry as often or they don't get as upset by things, but then we're not always in a perfect position then to feel empathy with someone. It's probably more from my point of view because I've never seen. I don't think that, you know, when you were listing all those people there in your life who you've seen cry, I can't think of many male figures, like certainly not my dad, my friends, like none of my close friends, I don't think I've never seen it. And I'm nearly 35 years
It's
old.
that though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just, you know, you always want to feel like people can open up about things. I've cried a couple of times in front of friends before, but again, it's, you know, that whole thing of you don't cry in front of guys, you know, but and it's probably the
So
wrong.
what? So men are meant to cry on their own.
No, I know exactly. No, but that's what I
But
mean, and
but
that's
see, also go back then to childhood. So how a mother treats a little boy who cries.
is it. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, exactly. Because it
But
depends
see,
on the mum, doesn't
compared
it?
to how a dad maybe treats his daughter who cries, and also how the mum treats a girl who cries.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so see how unique that can be for an individual. Because I've had female clients who were literally told as kids, "You don't cry."
Female clients, you said.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Oh,
had female clients who've been told that by the mums. I've had male clients who've been told by the mums, "You don't cry."
yeah, yeah.
Some of them have been assaulted for crying and things like that, you know what I mean? And slapped and corporal punishment involved. So it's like, look at what we've done to society. We've told people that they can't show emotions. Now, when men don't show, this is why I'm speaking up from a men's
Yeah, yeah.
perspective, is that men turn hate into what? Anger.
Yeah.
So when you get an angry man, he's hurting. So that's what I go on to straight away. So anyone who comes to me with anger, because I've dealt with the anger in my life, I realised very early on, I think it was when I first went to counselling before I even started studying it. My therapist at the time, he said to me, he said, you're not, you don't need anger management. He said, because the only person you punish is you. And he
Mm.
was like, your anger is actually how much you hurt. And as soon as he said that, I was like a light bulb moment where I was like, it is. So rather, every time I felt hurt, I couldn't show my vulnerability. So I'd show an anger, but I'd show my vulnerability to me because I didn't get the empathy off other people, male or female, in my life. So for me, it was very isolated. So then I learned in a way of going, well, fuck it. If I get upset, I'll get upset. If people judge me, they're judging me whether I'm upset or not. So see, you get to the point then where you start believing in yourself, where you go, you can be open.
Yeah,
So
because
I'm very open about being like, I've cried thousands of times in my life. I don't cry as much anymore because now I deal with myself where I speak about emotions. But if I did need to cry, I've cried. I can't even remember last time I cried, but it tends to be for music nowadays. So a certain song, the emotions and the vibration of that, so it might even be relating to anything. I just go, "Oof," get a bit overwhelmed, and then I allow myself to have like a few little tears. And every time I've ever done that, I've felt a little bit better. But men in general don't speak about that.
yeah, you do feel very liberated. I had it during COVID when I listened to "Why Worry" by the Dire Straits, and even times now I don't cry as such, but I well up just because of what it meant to me at that
So
time.
what
And
stops you? This is what I'm getting at. So what stops you? So we well up, and this is like
oh,
well up, but we don't. So what stops us from
oh,
crying?
look, I mean, I probably would say when I was growing up, like the female figures in my life, and this is probably the same for a lot of men, men my age, probably even slightly younger than me, is like, your mum would maybe encourage you to be more open, and your dad would say, soppy bollocks over here or
Yeah,
waterworks, and it's
man
just
up.
how it was, and that's not
Yeah,
to say anyone's right or wrong, but it's just, that's probably how it was, and there's an element of that of like, wanting to hold yourself back a little bit because the male figures in your life are not as prone to doing that. And my mum is more of a crier, for example, but that's probably why. Yeah. But then I found as I've gotten older, I've had that more open relationship with my dad, and it's been really nice because going back to what you were saying about how people channel their energy through anger and through lashing out at people. The irony is, and I have no problem, in talking about this or admitting it on here, is like when I came to you, it was like the whole idea of I'm in control when I'm angry. And you very quickly said to me, you're not. What you're actually doing is showing yourself to be self-sabotaging. You're showing yourself to be not in a position of weakness. You're
yeah,
exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself to what? To being punched, to being laughed at, to being mocked, to being physically attacked, whatever you want to say. Like, and people think that by projecting this image of anger, that people will go, oh, I better stay away from him. Whereas people can see right through it, can't they? And that's, again, another example of self-sabotage manifesting itself in everyday life. I mean, it could be like someone cutting you up when you're driving your car, or it could be someone annoying you on a phone call or in a meeting, or like someone in a pub getting in your way or something like that.
mhm,
And like I don't know. Like maybe I'm making a bit of a long-winded connection here, but if you're more in tune with your emotions and you check in with yourself more often and with others around you, you
yeah,
react to those situations very, very differently to
yeah,
what I
yeah.
imagine most people would do.
So if we learn how to release this, is what I'm trying to get at. If we learn how to release these tensions, if we learn how to release this hurt, this pain, we don't get to that level. Now, when you were just talking, I just wrote down quick. It's like that self sabotage. What you were giving that example of. It actually, it was to get you to feel stronger by projecting your issues or whatever it was. But by doing that, you then put yourself in the vulnerable position. And that's what I sort of got you to see, that even though you were trying to stick up for yourself, maybe, or you were trying to say something, it was actually then putting you in a very vulnerable position, which then defeated the object of it. You get what I mean? So you were becoming someone who you don't want to be.
No, no,
So
of
see
course.
the self sabotage in that as well. And then because of the examples of it, of well, say we lose our temper and road rage, all these other things like that. Now, someone could be having a bad day at work, and then they're coming home from work and they're pissed off because people haven't respected them that day. People have sort of took the piss out of them, all these other things. And then someone cuts them up and they go, fucking hell, it's the last person now. They disrespected me, but they're
Yeah,
not seeing a person. They're seeing a fucking car. So they're going, oh, right, I'm in this car. And it's bollocks really because it's a false society. It's almost like keyboard warriors
yeah,
on the internet. But you're actually more in danger because this person can stop, this person could crash into you. So you're causing self-sabotage. People will slam on. Pisses me off on the motorway when people are in the wrong lane, and then you sort of go past them and they give you the finger or something. You're like, that's society's problem. It's the arrogance that I have done nothing wrong.
yeah.
This is what we're in. We're in a society where people aren't admitting to their own faults. Now, if I've done something wrong in the car, I'm like, sorry. If I pulled out on someone, I'm like, sorry, because it's easy to do that. And quite often you see someone's rage where they're like, and they're like, oh, it's okay, because they've realised you're apologising. But if I've done something wrong and I go past someone, going, what mentality would I have to have that?
I
So
think as
where are
well.
we making faults?
Well, this is relevant to both of us really because obviously being in our 30s and 40s, it's like we're now raising, or you're raising, I obviously don't have kids, but maybe one day, but like our generations are raising the next generation. So
Yeah,
if they're seeing people react like that in times of vulnerability, they're going to do it. And I think that's a relatively recent thing. Now, I'm going to say that it's not a new thing for parents to not be the best example to their kids because let's face it, 50, 60 years ago, parents used to fucking hit their kids and, all the
yeah.
canes and the
Smoke and drive and everything,
yeah,
kids
smoke,
in the
yeah.
boot.
But it's just different forms of self-sabotage crop up all the time, and I think now I do see it when I'm out and about. I always see. I know you'll laugh when I bring this example up because you know what I'm going to say here, but like people parking badly or people driving badly, but like not owning up to their mistakes, like what you were saying there, people not owning their behaviors, and then what do kids grow up then thinking if that's the case?
Exactly.
You know.
So kids are just watching us, and then they're the next generations and stuff like that. Like I've had to learn it a lot because over the years, I'd say road rage and getting pissed off with other drivers and things like that because I was almost like thought I was traffic police or something in my head. I'd be like, fucking hell, look at this arsehole now, look at this. And then obviously as soon as my little boy started speaking, I think once I saw it and he repeated me and I was like, so I had to change it then to sausage rolls. So if you see someone up with like a sausage roll, and my little boy would be like sausage roll. But
Why are you
I've like
parking there, you sausage roll?
I've
Yeah,
even eliminated that part now, which I'm proud of myself for
yeah.
because I can stay very calm now, and I might beep at someone now and again if they are causing like a bit of. But even that, you beep at someone because they're doing something dangerous, and they might give you the finger. I remember this is a true story. This, by the way. So the roundabout on Roby, just as you come off the motorway,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
going down that years ago, and I'm going sort of to the left.
yeah.
And as I've come round, there's a Nissan Micra coming round the roundabout the wrong way, round the roundabout. So I've started beeping, and this is the God's honest truth. And it was two nuns, and the nun in the passenger seat went,
Really?
yeah. And I was just
No
like, what
way.
the fuck? I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was so, like, they were going the wrong way round the roundabout. And I was just like, I was trying to beep to say, like, you're going the fucking wrong way, and got the, so I was just like,
I
but
think,
another time, this was coming up to Christmas. This was years ago. I come onto Queen's Drive, and this van like cut me up. So I've like sort of gone alongside them, thinking to go like, what the fuck? And the fella was dressed up as Father Christmas with two like elves in the front seat of this van, and he ended up waving at them, and I was just like, fucking hell. But see, sometimes how you can just switch out of something because that initial part was like, what the fuck's this person doing? They've just cut me up, and then see Father Christmas gone. Oh, okay.
I
So
want to call
we can easily switch out of these reactions, can't we?
I want to call this episode Father Christmas and the Swearing Nun. No, it'll have nothing
Yeah,
to do with the topic of this. I think I've done something like probably between 50 and 100 podcasts now with various different people, and that's got to be the best story I've ever heard. The nun on the roundabout
yeah.
going
I
the
like, I
wrong
was
way
just
out of
like,
a Nissan Micro going like that.
you know what I mean? I was just like, it was years ago though, so I reckon the Nissan Micra, it was like the bubble one, you know what I mean? Like a grey colour, and I just remember thinking, fucking hell, I've worked on convents and everything years ago, I might have knew these nuns, that's my device, give me the thing. But it's like, you sometimes try to help people, and they're just so arrogant.
Yeah.
And you see this in shops all the time, and I know these videos that people make with the Karens and things like that, where people are like kicking off for no reason. But it's accepting our responsibility. And the only way we can become better, and especially for the younger generations, is to teach them that it's okay to be wrong. As long as you own up to your faults, that's how we learn. Kids are so like, it's so much pressure on kids not to fail, not to get something wrong. When I say to people, like, what have you ever done where you've just been instantly brilliant at it the first time you've done it? Try and think of one thing that you were brilliant at instantly.
Doubting myself.
It's only a negative, but like nothing, there's nothing that we're brilliant at, like driving, even walking. How long does it take a kid to walk? How long does it take a kid to speak? So we don't instantly get anything. We learn.
We've talked about this, right? And this is so interesting you said this. Like I was blessed, obviously, with my mom and dad. They were very much the opposite of this. But we've talked before about how sometimes when people are raised by narcissistic parents, there's this whole idea of you've got to be absolutely perfect all the time. You can't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
anything wrong, you can't make mistakes. And then self-sabotage kicks in a different way. I mean, I wonder if we could explore that in a bit more detail.
I mean, it's not even with a narcissist parent. It's not even perfectionism. It's just they need to feel power. So if they've grown up with it, and this is the case normally, like when people do family trees, they should actually do a mental health family tree, because people will always find the narcissist in the family, and it might be the nana or the granddad or something, or the great nana, and you see the effects it had on then their parents and their siblings, and then it has that counter effect. But it's so damaging to kids because, especially years ago when people couldn't speak about emotions, and it was tough love as well, so there was corporal punishments going on, so you had a lot of like people getting mistreated. With narcissists, they're jealous normally of the daughters, so this has a massive effect. They're normally jealous of their own daughters. Then if they've got sons, then they hate the sons' partners. So it's all about control. Now that starts at childhood. So if you've got a parent who makes the child feel guilty, and the child's worrying about the parents all the time, and then it's like the child then becomes the parent, and the adult, the parent, is then child ego. So then the child's always trying to fill the parent's needs. So see how it's all, they can't win. So they're constantly in life then where they can't win. And then they get older and they meet a partner where they can't win. And it's because it's normalized. So all these normal feelings, and if we don't question them, that's why we live in them. So my job is to get people to question their own thoughts, as I've said loads of times. I'm like looking through your window. I'm never in your shoes. I don't want to be in your shoes, because if I was in your shoes, I'd feel the emotions of each story. So what I'm trying to do is see from sitting on the fence, really, of going like, I'm here, I can see it clearly, but you can't because you've got all the emotional attachments. And we're never blaming anyone, we're just seeing the reality. So we're never talking about anyone who's damaged us in life. We're never blaming them in a way, because blaming them doesn't change anything. What we're doing is recognizing our own emotions, recognizing how we felt about these situations. And most memories, you'll think about how other people reacted. So that's what I get people to do. I go, well, how did this little child feel in that situation? How did this little boy or girl feel in that situation? So you're an adult now, you're safe, you're in this room, you're safe. But as a child, how did that child feel? Was that child even allowed to show their emotions? Who even cared what that child felt? So punishing children for getting something wrong, or punishing them for like just the smallest thing. But nowadays, it's encouraged more. Whereas you seen documentaries years ago, and everyone was slating the mums at the time of kids who getting to put like beauty pageants and all these other things. I think it was an American series. But women are doing it now. Men are doing it now, where they're putting the kids online, aren't they? There's a thing on Disney. I watched it the other week. I think it's a few years old, but it's about this woman who was like a YouTube sensation, and she had like 6 kids, and they were like in America, and she was horrible. She ended up going to
I
jail.
saw this. She got arrested with her mate, didn't she? Where
Yeah.
she,
Well, it wasn't a mate, was it? It was a therapist who ended up being like
yeah,
they were in like a sexual relationship, I think, in the end. But she was like claiming to be a psychologist in America, but she'd been struck off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they ended up like abusing these kids, like tying them up and all things like that. And when I was watching, I was like, fucking hell. But the mum, straight away, like, soon as I put it on, I was like, she's a narcissist straight away. I can just see it in their eyes. It's like they're self-absorbed. So when they've got kids, the kids are like, well, look what I'm representing. So they
Yeah.
love having kids they can show off. If the kid's a bit of a rebel, they don't want the family to see that. I've had clients in the past where they've had narcissistic parents, and when like friends had come round, they'd tell this child who was the scapegoat to go upstairs to stay out the way.
Really?
So they're embarrassed to their own kids, you see, and they're
And
often they can be hot.
what would those people grow up thinking about themselves? Obviously, we're not naming names here or anything, but like, and you've spoken to clients about that or similar
And
experience.
even in my personal life, I've known people who've got this existence, and it's like it affects them unless they change the outlook. If you change your outlook on life, you can change. But if you don't, and you just take that as well, that's how I'm treated.
Mm.
It's self-sabotage then, because these people have got no self-belief, and that can create narcissism as well. So there's different ways of creating narcissism. It's so hard being a parent because you, there's no real books on it to say this is how to do it all the time. So it's guesswork, and you then project your childhood, you project you onto them. So for me, I'm always like trying to give my kids the things I didn't have. I speak to them about things in depth and all. So I'm trying to give them all these things that I didn't have. Do you know what I mean? So I'm constantly like, I overthink things, and I'm like, how can I do this? And I'm like, I love being creative. So with my little boy, I love him drawing and painting things because he builds confidence in that then, and like letting him do his own Lego where that was hard. Do you know what I mean? Because when my daughter was younger, she was like, oh, I like it just being made. So I was in that method then of, well, I'll just build it for you.
Yeah,
And she was happy with that. But then as she's got older, she likes building Lego herself sometimes. It's having that production in you where you go, I can do it myself.
yeah,
So it's so hard, isn't it, to gauge? So as I'm saying, like if you do everything for your kid, you can make them feel like they can't do it. And it's just through love. There's no negatives in that. But if you make your kid feel like everything they do is wrong, they're stupid, they're not intelligent enough, then that's bad, isn't it? But that parent then, they're projecting their own self beliefs onto that child. They're projecting their own shit. So they haven't learned, have they? They haven't gone, well, my parents treated me like this, so I won't treat my kids like that. And if you don't learn that, then you haven't learned off life. Most people haven't got wisdom. Most people just go along with what they're told. They don't question a thing. I question everything, and I've always questioned everything. So the more we question life, the more we question ourselves. So then you become more open. You're not as judgmental with us. So when I look at people and I analyze them in a way of safety for myself, of going, how does this person work? What is this pattern of behavior? Now, I've always done that in some form through my life without knowing it, without being conscious. Now, I done that to make sure I was safe. But as my job now, I don't do it to see if I'm safe. I do it in my client's best interest. I'm trying to see through their world to go, right, where's the damage coming in? What's the thoughts? And that's how you get your answers. And that's why it works. That's why so many of my clients, the whole life changes because how they speak to themselves, they allow themselves to show pain. They have better relationships with them, with people around them because you test whether that's on offer.
yeah,
By working on yourself, it opens your eyes, you see, to reality. So if you've got friends who don't really care about you, when you do therapy, you end up realizing who them friends are.
yeah,
The friends who do care about you, you have a better relationship with them. If you've got relationships with your parents where you're stuck in child mode a bit, once you change into adulthood, most of my clients then are going, getting on with my parents, brilliant now, because they've matured. Because every time siblings tend to go back to the parents, they act like kids again. And then the parents are telling like 50-year-olds off and say, hey, stop it. And you're
yeah.
like, so everyone's playing the part, aren't they? And it's about maturing and stop playing your part. The person who you want to be is a choice every single day. You wake up, you are that person today, not the person yesterday, not you from childhood. You are this person who you are today. So if self-sabotage takes over that by repeating the past, see where the damage kicks in. So it stems right from childhood, stems from right from the off, doesn't it?
Well, I think you've kind of, I had this question in my head as you were talking, but I think you actually just answered it a moment ago is like, how do you get people from the point at which they come to you, first of all, and they're, full of self-doubt, a lot of self-sabotage going on. in child mode a lot of the time. How do you get them from that point to the point where they're enjoying better relationships with people, they're doing better in their job, they're doing better in their life, they're just happier within themselves, and they don't have this self-sabotage? So how what's your kind of process there? Like, how do you get them from that point to the point where they eventually get to?
So for me, it's like because I do an initial phone call, I normally know what that person will need just off the phone call. Now, low self-esteem, how they think about themselves, how they speak, just by reducing them things alone, having awareness of this talk in our head. Most people don't even realize they're just chatting pure shit to themselves all day, and they're running a commentary through their life. Now, I don't know where like you've seen, but like I love the Peep Show. Now, the Peep
Yeah.
Show, that's basically what people are like. So on the Peep Show, you hear their thoughts, don't you?
Mhm.
So with Mark and he quite often go, well, like, fuck, do that. And then the person will go to him, can you do that? And he goes, yes, okay. So that's self-sabotage when we don't know how to say no, isn't it? So all these things, that's what clients are like, though. They don't realize how much they're giving themselves shit, how much they. So my job is to get them to see that whilst building their confidence. The more they believe in themselves, the more their life starts to change. And then even speaking about anyone around them, it's never to blame, as I said, it's to just get them aware. So to get awareness of these other people. If people have got narcissists in their life, they really need to be aware of that because they're trying so hard with this person, but feel like they keep failing. Do you get what I mean? And I work with it from businesses and relationships, friendships. There's all different versions of it. But narcissism affects most people because if you're around someone who's bad for you, who doesn't want to see you succeed, and they might be a family member, they might be a partner, they might be a friend, you've got to reevaluate that, haven't you? But you can't reevaluate it if you speak to yourself like shit because you'll value yourself at what they value at.
Yeah.
So see how your self worth so low then?
It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, you know? Like you just
Exactly, yeah.
can't see the bigger picture. Um,
But as I've said, if you've never been told how to express yourself or you've never learned that, then you hold it all in. So you're easily triggered then, aren't you? And if you haven't got the self belief to stand up for yourself, which is what I was saying earlier about being in a football match, so you'll have some men who can't stand up for themselves ever. They could just never stand up for themselves, but they'll be raging at the match or they'll go and do a protest in town for like the Labour Party or like some rights or something, and they'll stand up for another group because that's the only time they feel strength in numbers. Now that's you're so vulnerable if you only ever feel strong in numbers. That's such a vulnerability. Now narcissists, that's what they do. They feel strength in numbers. So if they turn everyone against you, they feel stronger.
yeah.
But then you got the next scale up, which is sociopaths. So sociopaths like use Tony Soprano as the example. So he needs to be in control of people because his mum's a narcissist, isn't she? And his sister's also a narcissist. So for him, he's so frustrated. Like the version of him around his mum and his sister compared to how he is around other gangsters. You see, he's weak, isn't he? They make him feel like a piece of shit. They make him feel so weak that he's then got to go and kill someone or go and react because he's hurting and he takes his anger out. And you see loads of examples of that throughout. But people get mistaken and go, he's a psychopath. He's not a psychopath. He's a sociopath. Sociopaths need people. Psychopaths don't.
Yeah.
Psychopaths tend to be more isolated. They don't really connect with anyone. Like friends, it's very like artificial. They don't understand human emotions. Basically, they're almost like aliens. So
Yeah.
for them to kill someone is just like butter and a piece of bread because there's no human emotions in it. Whereas a sociopath, they can do the same because sociopaths and narcissists will tend to offer apologies. They'll tell you what you want to hear. So they act guilty sometimes. They go, oh, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again. But then they just keep doing it. But a sociopath will just deny it. They'll take it to the death. They're the people who are in jail and they'll never say where the body is. All these other people. So
Yeah.
they'll just deny everything. The horrible people to be around because they're only out for themselves and they will destroy anyone who questions them. So
Yeah.
see what I was saying about being strong in a group?
Yeah.
So you've got someone in a taxi and they're giving everyone else shit and you take them on. By the morning, none of the rest of them are speaking to you because they might make a lie up or something and go, she was horrible to me or he was horrible to me.
A question for you, right? And I don't know if you'll have like a tangible answer to this because there may be multiple answers to this. But when you work with clients, what are some of the most common examples of thoughts that are indicative of self-sabotage that you get? What do you get the most as examples where people say something to you and you might get frustrated deep down thinking like, how can you talk about yourself this way? Why do you believe this? Like, what are some of the most common phrases or opinions that you hear people come out with that you feel are classic cases of self-sabotage?
You could do a family fortunes on this. I was just thinking when you said that, and the
Yeah,
top answer would
yeah,
probably be can't be asked.
yeah,
So they've got to do something, can't be asked.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now I hear that off so many clients straight away. It's
You
the
help
can't be
people.
asked attitude. Now can't be asked attitude. People should advertise. It should be advertised. It is. That's what leads to depression.
Yeah,
So all the fun things you do can't be asked doing that anymore. I used to play footy. I used to listen to music. I used to watch this on the telly. I used to do this. And that's what people say when they're depressed. They'll just list all the things they don't do anymore. And I'll say to them, well, why do I just won't like it. So that's another one, isn't it? I won't like it.
yeah,
People who don't try new foods, people who the world comes smaller then. So I'm always trying to get people to embrace themselves, taste new foods, travel to new places, because that's then when you're alive. Loads of people live a life, but they're not alive. So sad.
mhm,
They'll exist. They'll have a job. They might go on holiday for 2 weeks a year, but they've got no stories. And I say to my clients, if this film, your life was a film, and you're the main part in it, would you watch this film? And most of them will go, no. Say, well, shouldn't you change that? Because most people's films, even though it's meant to be about their life, it's not. It's about the partner, it's about the kids, it's about the job.
mhm.
So it's sad that, isn't it? Because where are they? So that's
Yeah,
my job to get you to see who you are. What do you need? What excites you? What are the things that you used to be passionate for? And loads of people at the beginning, when the self-worth drops so low and they're in the can't be arsed attitude stage, you ask them what a dream would be in the future, and they go, I haven't got any. So I see these are all key things that I listen to, and I go, right. So I'm not expecting them to have this dream, but then as we're going along, they start having dreams. Then they start having ambitions. Because why? Because they're believing in themselves. The self doubt is slipping away. So it's so important. All the work I do is about controlling thoughts.
mhm,
Our thoughts are not us. Our mind gets told information, and then it sends reactions out. Now, you can have these roller coaster rides every single day. So when you've got that can't be asked attitude, it's not that you can't be asked, it's the self doubt. You're overthinking it. You're thinking you have to be more prepared. So many people who suffer with anxiety, they need like 6 days' notice if they go in the shop.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I need to know this. I need to know. Oh my God, if I don't know. So they're so anxious. Times I've got to be on this time, and ADHD kicks into that a lot. You know what I mean? Where it's like the more you work on yourself, the more it can change. Now I used to take a lot of my stuff, my symptoms, I'd call them, for granted. I'd just go, well, no, that's me. Now I don't.
mhm,
So I've changed them. So I could live under this umbrella of going, well, I've got this part of ADHD. I haven't. The part of ADHD I've got now is that my brain works very, very fast. I don't have to sleep as much as probably the average person. I drink coffee. I can drink coffee before I go to bed.
yeah.
Doesn't make me tired. I took sleeping tablets once, and like I went to the doctor. Like, if you give me speed, because I didn't get a minute of sleep,
Fucking
and he
hell.
was like, that affects like 1% of people. So I have opposite effects, and I do believe this is like a chemical imbalance that we have. When our needs aren't met properly as a child, or you're in vulnerable positions, or you feel anxiety, or all these other symptoms, you have a reaction. So for me, I learned how to use humor. I
Mm.
use humor, but I also use like rage sometimes and anger and things like that, because I didn't want to feel vulnerable, especially around men or lads. So if you have that persona, so I used to do martial art, I was quite loud, all these other things, but I never wanted to come across as a bully. I never wanted to come across, so I was a protector. So it was great for fucking everyone around me, wasn't I? Because I was protecting them, but no one was ever protecting me.
That's
And it
you.
was me who needed protecting. So that's what you learn from it. And the more you build that up, then you become your own protector. Where now it's like in my DNA to be a protector, in a way of going, that's something I wouldn't take away.
Mhm.
So, but I've also learned to protect me. And by protecting me, what do? I don't react the same anymore. I don't speak to myself the same anymore. I do gardening. I do like painting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all even like it's weird for me. If ever something's stressing me out, I clean up.
Yeah, you meditate a lot as well, don't you? Remember you
Yeah,
said?
yeah, I meditate, but I meditate in a different way where I just meditate by sitting still basically and go to black space, or I can meditate with my eyes open. A lot of do that in the garden where I'll just sit there, but I don't allow any thoughts. So once you control thoughts, you have that space. Now, if you go to like guided meditations or yoga, and there's loads of different things you can do where they really work if you can cut off. But someone who goes to meditation and they've had a stressful day, but they can't switch off, the meditation won't work. So they might blame the meditation. It's not the meditation, it's the fact that your thoughts don't switch off for this thing. So someone with ADHD and their mind switches to things, they can't switch off. So they might go, I don't like meditation, I don't like yoga. And all it's about is finding the thing you like. It's not about judging something else because them things do work. Tai Chi is brilliant for any martial artist because you've got to be in that moment. Art, that's really good for it. Writing, all these things where you're in the moment. But if you're in thought, that's dangerous
Hmm.
because them thoughts are dependent on what's happened in your day if you can't be asked. So you might go, I need to do these three things this morning. I've got loads of time, but you just go, can't be asked. Can't be asked. And then once you run out of the time that you had allocated to do them, then you're like, you lazy bastard, you should have done them. So see how
Yeah,
the
yeah,
self-sabotage kicks in?
yeah, 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 yeah. Goes full circle, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's such a, it's just such a damaging thing to tell yourself, and I know I've told myself that many times. Are there any other um phrases or kind of like strap lines, I guess you could call them, that you hear all the time, like just sort of like like a figure of speech almost that people say in passing that you're like, that's self-sabotage or that's limiting you, that's holding you back, and you almost want to dig a bit deeper to find out where it's come from. Like, are there any other examples of things that people say to you
So
that,
there's a couple there. So what the self-sabotage we use towards ourselves, I'll give you an example of first is I'm not good enough or I can't do that. Or um well, they're better than me. Now, everything is about repetition. So, like anyone watching this, think about it. It's about repetition. So, when you first start your job, no matter what your job is, you will not be as good at it as you are now because of repetition. First thing, you're learning something brand new, you won't know it. Even if it's down to schedules, packing boxes, anything, building a car, anything you do, you're not brilliant at it at the beginning. So, you're learning, aren't you? And then over time, you should learn more and more. Now, people who don't learn on a job and keep doing it wrong, it's like years ago on the building, like you see fellas and they go, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I'd be like, you've fucking been doing it wrong for 30 years then because you're fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? But that's how I used to be because I couldn't, like, there was no in between for me because I had this such a high level of like, I used to search for this perfectionist, as I was saying earlier, of what you do in childhood, because I wanted to get things right. I wanted to impress. I wanted people to go, you've done a good job there.
yeah,
Now, if I didn't get that, then I could feel a little bit of disappointment. I wouldn't want to let anyone down. And I had to teach myself how to go, you can only do as good as you can do. So I had to give myself empathy and understanding. I had to like sort of appreciate things where I'm a lot more relaxed now. Things that don't matter, I don't make them matter. But it's good having an eye for detail. I've always had it because that's another part of high anxiety where you see things more like I could see a speck in a room on the ceiling or I'd see. Do you know what I mean? So when I used to do snagging on building sites, I remember one of the bosses once saying to me, this when I was about 18, 19, working on the convent as well. It was actually, he come round and he was like, you're snagging on these rooms that you're doing, the too like strict. Because I was perfectionist. I was like, that needs fixing, that needs, and he was like, no, we're not really getting paid to have it the fucking standard you want it. So that's why I was like, fuck this, I'm going to go and work for myself. So like I used to work on a lot of big houses and mansions and things like that, and it's because the standard of work I had was to be the best I could.
I was like
My
that.
eye for detail.
I've been like that with writing, all my life, and you know, I've been in positions where people who I've managed, for example, like when I managed a team of writers, they were saying to me, you're too picky over our work. It was like one of the managers who said this to me, and at the time, my mind straight away went to a place of defensiveness. I was like, how dare you question me? I want every detail of this fucking it'd be like, might be like, so I said essay then, article or white paper or whatever it was, social media or email copy for client emails. I'd be like, I want every single detail to be right on this. But that was just my mindset. Now that goes right
But
back.
see how sick that was, though, and even still now, when you doubt yourself if you're doing a piece of work. So you know you're a perfectionist, you know you do a really good job, but why would you doubt yourself? So is
Exactly.
it the customer doubting you or is it yourself?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I was ever doing wallpaper for someone, like I would, it had to be so precise where I'd had customers going, no, that's sound, that, that's brilliant. And I'd be like, no, there's just that little bit there that's pissing me off. And it would literally piss me off where I suppose that's how I got into with the therapy side is like, when I first started, I was like, there needs to be more to it. There needs to be answers for people.
Mm.
And when I was training, I sort of picked up on that where the psychotherapy part excited me more because the counselling, just listening to someone, yeah, it works, but that person could be coming to you for like 7 years before they get any answers. Where for me, if you speak about what the person's going through and they start getting answers, they start understanding themselves quicker so that a lot of people in therapy, and I've done this myself, you dance around the fire. So there's certain issues you don't want to speak about, and you need to build rapport with the therapist. You need to, and yeah, everyone's at their own pace. But when you start working on people's confidence, when you start working on how they speak to themselves first, they build up a confidence where they've got more sort of like strength to go into the deeper thoughts then. Whereas otherwise, people are reliving thoughts and and that's not really helpful. So it's finding answers, and I think that's why it pushed me on so much to do so much personal development on myself. Like 10 years I've been doing personal development on myself now, and I'm still going at it. So the more developing I do on me, the more I learn about me, the more I can help me clients. Because for me, I'm emotionally attached to all my stories. But for clients, I'm trying to see through their window, and I've got to be their strength in some ways at the beginning to say, yeah, you're seeing this, but look what I'm seeing. Look at the version of you. And then they see that it's true. It's not bullshit. It's what you're telling me. All these things you're good at, but who's doubting you the most?
You're just in such
It's
a bubble.
themselves,
Like
isn't it?
we as people are just in such a bubble, and it's like you can't. It's almost like a bubble when it's dark, if that makes sense. So you like can't see outside of the bubble. It's just like and sometimes you need someone to like put the hand in the bubble and fucking pull
Yeah,
you out
yeah.
just to show
But
you
it's
the
back
real.
to COVID thing because that bubble thing always stuck with me during COVID. People, are, well, who's in your bubble? And I remember thinking, oh, yeah, who the fuck is in my bubble? Do you know? And it's like it isn't, and I think a lot of people started like looking at themselves then of going, well, yeah, who is in my bubble? So people who work in like a team or they work in a place and they couldn't work there, they had to work from home. Then they lost that part of that bubble, didn't they? But that might be including their socializing, might be going out for lunch or going out for, so they're missing out on that part. So
Yeah.
for people like that, they really struggle with it. Whereas for me, I was used to working on my own. I like being at home. So for me, I loved it. I'd have been quite happy if they said, right, like it's going to go on forever now. I'd have been like, Sam, because I didn't really feel like I was missing anything. But as soon as it opened back up, it was getting used to it then. And what I did notice at the time is I didn't like going to shops with people with masks on because I never realised how much I relied on people's facial expressions.
Yeah.
And for me, I kept feeling like hostility. I remember going to Sainsbury's and everyone would have masks on and you couldn't see if people were smiling or like normally where you'd give old
They're
people
just
like that.
they're all just scowling at you collectively. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that thing you do when like, well, I do it anyway. Like when you see an old person, you're walking past them in the street, you give them that little smile as if to say, I'm not a thug, I'm not going to mug you. Do you know what I mean? Like, hello. But when you've got a mask on and you don't, like
Yeah.
everyone was a little bit hostile, I think, and I think it made everyone feel like separated and isolated a little bit more, and obviously rubbing it in as well by going, well, who's in your bubble? And people couldn't visit grandparents, people couldn't visit their own family. And it's like, it's ridiculous when you look back now, isn't it? It's ridiculous how easily we were led to believe that this disease was going to go around and it was going to kill like 1 in 3 people or something. And then all of a sudden, we're back to normal, like nothing's ever happened. So there's gonna be films about this, and kids will be like, "What the fuck was this?"
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
you're standing 6 foot away. That's where I think for a lot of people, like I sort of seen about this at the time. It's like I understand now why a lot of people don't know what 6 foot is
Yeah.
because people meant to stand 6 foot apart, weren't they? And it's like you realise then that no one really sort of
Well, and that
gave you.
definitely wasn't happening either. So yeah, it's just yeah, it's
But see
all
how we have beliefs and we have this thing because I think for like a lot of men and stuff, like you go, you're there like, oh, women want men over 6 foot and they might only be five. No one seems to know heights and no one seems to know. So what's it based off?
and then
But see how people have it.
what you said earlier is a really good example of that, where like, clients might come to you and say, I'm not good enough because I'm not 6 foot or I'm not tall
Yeah.
enough. Who fucking knows what six
Yeah,
foot?
or I'm too skinny, or I'm too fat, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. And what you want is someone who loves you for being you. But if you don't love you for being you, see where the problem starts.
Look, there's two sides to this. I think you've either got people who do really think about this stuff, who might think they're not big enough or they're not skinny enough or that, but they're not the people you want in your life. That's the first thing. And then other people are not thinking about you in that sort of detail, like you're thinking about you. You're in your own head a lot more than anyone else is in your head or in your life. Like, because they're obviously, we just turn that alarm off. Sorry. They're just trying to get by in their own lives, aren't they? But then people who obsess over what someone looks like, how they speak, how they dress, judging people, like they're just not people you want in your life anyway.
But see, you get some people who feel all that. Like if there's two sides to it, where like some people will love that part that you're struggling. Then you get other people who've got them struggles going on for themselves, but they'll compliment you all the time. They'll make you feel good about themselves. So you might say, "Oh, I feel like this and feel like I'm that," and you might have a friend who goes, "Well, no, you're not. You look okay." So that's the support you said about earlier, isn't it? But if
Yeah.
you've got a friend who go, "Oh yeah, you could do with putting a bit of weight on, or you could do with losing a bit of weight," so they're just the basic ones. Like most people go on about looks and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's how we feel about ourselves. You know, me having body dysmorphia years ago, I used to train all the time, and I wanted to be bigger, and I wanted my arms to be bigger, and they were never big enough. I looked at myself, I was never ever happy with myself. Whereas
Seen
now,
stories
because
of
I'm in a
guys-
good place, I'm
I've seen,
happy with myself now.
I've seen stories of guys who had like 18-inch arms, 20-inch arms, and they said, "Oh, I'm skinny." It's mad.
Mm. Honest to God, that like my arms, my chest, and like because I've done martial art, and then I was trying to put weight on to fight at a higher weight and stuff like that. I lost me sort of vision on that then. So that's what I realised as well of patterns of behaviour is I'd get to the thing that I could achieve, and then I'd leave it because I didn't want to ruin my own dream in a way. Do you know what I mean? So it was like I'd jump from one thing to another. So in my head, I was like, well, what do you stick to?
Patterns of behavior, that's a great one. So why don't we talk a bit more about that? What are some common patterns of behavior that you see in people who are expressing self-doubt or feeling that self-sabotage? What are
Well,
some common patterns of behavior that you see in people?
we have sort of mentioned it, haven't we? We've mentioned it in a few different ways. So it's like from childhood. So your patterns of behavior start then. So it's how you feel about yourself. So as a teenager, and teenagers that you're meant to go through this. This is the process you go through. When hormones kick in, male and female, they start like wanting to be attractive, don't they? So they're conscious then of how they look. And if you're one of the good looking kids and you're getting good attention, you might get your confidence built up. But if you're not getting attention or you're getting called ugly or you're getting called whatever, it's sad, isn't it? Because if that person's got no self belief and then at home they mightn't be getting told this, or see, it can go so many different ways. So everyone's so unique. But so you've got parents who say to the kid, "You are gorgeous, you are the best fucking thing ever," and then that kid goes to school, and then some other kid goes, "No, you're not." Now, if that kid's got the belief, well, no, my parents are right and I am. Is your mic on mute there a second or? No idea.
Yeah, because
Oh no, sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know how long it had been on mute. I was like,
yeah, no, I
well,
was getting a bit of feedback, so I decided to put it on mute just in case the viewers were getting any bad feedback.
so the other example of that as well is that is we constantly sort of go through these self-sabotages in our own space. So when you're around other people, you're triggered by them. They're triggered by you. So these patterns of behavior will be what you normalize. So this is how you pick your friends. This is how you pick your partners, isn't it? This is how you pick your surroundings. So all these things are part of self-sabotage normally. Now, if they're in a positive way because you're doing them with good intentions, then you're going to be okay. But if you're doing them through wrong intentions, so back to teenagers, like if your mate say, here's a cigarette, or here's some weed, or here's some alcohol, and you haven't got the strength to say no, that could create the pattern of behavior, couldn't it? So every time you see these friends, then you do that thing. And you think that if you don't do that thing, they won't include you anymore. So see how easy it is to fall into a pattern.
It happens in school all the time. Like, I remember seeing kids in year seven, and you look at it now, and obviously the more you know about the world, the less shocking this seems. But I remember being 12 years old, and the kid who was doing this, I think, would have been 11, because we just started high school, and he was quite about a year younger than me. I think he's quite a bit younger than me. And he was on the field with these other kids, and they're all smoking, passing cigarettes around. And these are kids who are like probably year 8, 9, 10 sort of age. But even now, you and I would look at them and go, they're kids, they're children, right? But at the time, you're going, oh, the big kids are smoking. And then he gets past his cigarette and he can't say no. He's not, he's so under pressure and he's smoking, he's full on chain smoking. And you're thinking, he's 11 years old. Like, how can, but then apparently, as you get older, so many people say, I started smoking when I was 10, I started smoking when I was 11. Like, it feels inconceivable at that age that someone could do that. But then peer pressure does some funny things, doesn't it?
But see, peer pressure doesn't have the strength if you've got a child who's being educated in bringing themselves, bringing the thought into the reality of sticking up for yourself,
Yeah,
of being confident, of
exactly.
supporting yourself. But see, everyone's different. Some kids who grow up in sort of a bit of a toxic environment and could be labeled ADHD, they might be more mature for their age. They might have to be. They might have to act more like a teenager, but they might only be 7, 8, 9. Get that in a lot of clients where they've had to grow up too soon. So they've lost part of their childhood. So they might be like a little arm man smoking when they're 14, going, oh, I've had a terrible day. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but then you get another kid who's sort of mollycoddled a bit and they're just doing it for excitement. And I think you see this a lot with drugs. So some people who've been brought up in a safe environment, but they want to be a little bit of a rebel. They might take drugs over a weekend, but other than that, they don't do anything wrong. But they'd never tell the parents, even no matter how old they are. They might be in the 40s, but they wouldn't tell the parents because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be. So they don't really do it to escape. They do it for fun. But then they might hang around with lads or girls who do it to escape. Now, there's a difference in that. And this is where the problems kick in. This is where addictions are normally kicking. Because if you're doing something to escape, you constantly want to escape it. Now, everyone straight away people think of addictions as in external things, but our first addictions are emotions. So everyone's addicted to emotions first. So your emotions sort of then get processed, and then if you're addicted to a self-sabotage as well, you will always be guided to that thing. So you might go, that's it, I'm never taking drugs again, I'm never drinking again. But then the Friday comes and people are like, I've had a shit week in work. Your phone rings and it's one of these mates and they go, fuck it, I'll escape. But people do this through computer games, people do this. But everyone's got judgments on it. So you notice people's judgments are based on what they do. So if someone drinks, they'll be like, oh, it's okay. It's okay to have a drink. People who have drugs, they'll say it's okay to have drugs. But they might judge the other person for what they do. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned it before. Like, it's like 3 million people globally a year die from alcohol. But yet we're all brainwashed in school and things like that. Say no to drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember Grange Hill and all that, just say no and all this. And like, it's like, but opioids kill like 300,000 people a year compared to 3 million people a year off alcohol.
Yeah, but I'm always
Yeah,
very cynical
look,
of that.
every soap opera, every sort of thing. Now, I drink sometimes, so it's like I'm not like saying to people don't drink or judging people, but what I'm saying is because it's so like out there. Like when I was a kid, it's like you'd look at people all the time. All adults were drinking, all these other things, so it was normalized. Whereas younger generations now, they might be looking at parents who've got drinking problems, so they don't drink. There's loads of young people now who don't drink.
Gen Z don't really. I was just going to say there, I feel as though the UK government sort of doesn't clamp down on alcohol as much as it could do because of the
The
VAT.
taxes, yeah.
Yeah, it gets loads from VAT. Same with vaping and things like that. But like, yeah, like younger kids now, I think they're more into drugs than alcohol, from what I see. Like, kids who,
Because why? Because they're looking to escape.
yeah,
But look what they're playing on. They're playing on computers that are so realistic. You've got VRs, so their escapes are already on a different level.
yeah.
When I was a kid, like our escapes were like fucking Game Boys when they come out, or going on a bike ride, or getting chased by someone or something. Do you know, it was like,
I was the Pokemon generation. Dragon
see, like
Ball,
even
Dragon
all
Ball
that,
Z.
I don't get none of that stuff because for me it wasn't like I had to be an adult,
Yeah,
so I didn't really do like my mates were older than me, so like it was like loads of my mates were DJs and stuff when I was like in my teens and stuff. So it's like I was going to parties, going to clubs in town. I think I was going to clubs when I was about 15. I could get in because my mates were the DJs, do you know what I mean? And I'd stand by them a little bit, going, looking like a fucking kid in a nightclub. But my mind was sort of, I wanted to be an adult because I thought when I'm an adult, I'll be safe. I can do these things. I can be in control. I can get my own place. All these things. I wanted to be a man. I didn't want to stay a boy. I didn't want to be a boy. So
yeah,
see the difference. Whereas you get some lads. I remember going to Corfu years ago on holiday, like 20 years ago, a bit longer, I think. But I remember me and my mates there, we were sort of quite mature. And then you had all these lads from London who were like the same age as us, but they were just like proper kids. And we
yeah.
got to know them and that, but they were all from like good homes, you know what I mean? They all had like both parents and they could just be kids.
Yeah.
They were just like dead naive and just like good. They were dead funny lads, do you know what I mean? But I then felt like their parents in a way.
Yeah, parenting them
But
through.
they'd come to me and tell me like the stories and like it's just bizarre. Like I've had it like it over years where like I've had certain friends like mates and that who like they'd lie to me about taking drugs and things because they know I don't like. But I'd be like, why are you lying? I'm not your dad.
Yeah,
Because they think you're going to judge them, don't they? But who's judging them really? They're judging themselves, aren't they?
yeah,
So they think someone's going to be ashamed of them. They think someone's going to be. Whereas each to their own in my eyes. It's like I can't judge anyone. I don't know why someone's trying to escape, or I don't know when someone's going to go out to have fun. So for me, with alcohol, I don't really drink that much anymore because when I was younger, I used to drink to escape. And as I get older, I don't need to escape in that sense. I don't drink as much.
yeah,
So I have a cut-off limit. I just don't want to get drunk anymore. I just don't want to. But that's my personal preference. I'm not putting that on someone else.
yeah, yeah.
As
That's
long
really,
as you're enjoying yourself, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, then it's okay for you, isn't it?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're pretty much like coming towards the end now. We're at the recap
Mhm.
stage now with some of these questions I've just jotted down as you were speaking there. Like, and again, you've mentioned this throughout the podcast, but if we can just circle back to it, how can people break free from self-sabotage?
So self-care, it's got to be one of the top ones, hasn't it? Self-care, looking after ourselves, so being nice to ourselves. So this goes straight into thoughts. It's how we speak to ourselves. Loads of people self-sabotage from the minute they wake up. So can't get out of bed, pressing snooze, all this. The best tip I can ever give anyone, you don't have to listen to me, but is get out of bed instantly. Because who are you asking? Who are we having a conversation with? Don't know how to get out of bed. Oh my God, I need time. Going on about sleep to ourselves. As an adult, don't do it. If you've had 3 hours sleep and you've still got to go to work, you've still got to on with your day. Get on with your day, but don't keep going on about the lack of sleep because it doesn't help, does it? Makes you feel more tired. So it's using tools to sort of help yourself. So what do you need of a morning to feel like you're okay? I need a bit of time of a morning, so I give myself 2 hours at least before I'll start work from the minute I've got up because I wouldn't instantly start work. I know I've got to go through a process. I'll have a cup of coffee, go and have a shower, and then I feel awake. But I don't have conversations with myself about it. I go through a process so I feel better and I do this daily. Then the positiveness. So happiness, even if it's the smallest thing, to go to the shop and buy yourself a Toblerone, just come to me, a Toblerone or a chocolate bar or something. Treat yourself sometimes, and don't treat it as junk food. Don't treat it as you're poisoning yourself. Because as a little kid, how did you feel when someone gave you a Freddo or a fucking gold badge? So why do we miss out on that in life? Where's our little rewards? So see how these little rewards. So if you motivate yourself, like, go, I'm going to get all these things done around the house, and then I'm going to treat myself to a cup of tea and a cake. What's wrong with that? But see, you're motivated then. Whereas if you sit there and say, I can't be asked. So it's replacing negatives with positives. Self-love's a big one. Most people don't love themselves. So if you don't love yourself enough, you can never be loved enough. That's a fact. You'll never feel love enough unless you think you're worthy of love. You'll never be respected enough until you respect yourself enough. You can't get it externally. It's a trick. You can't get success externally unless internally we believe we're successful. You can't get happiness externally unless internally we believe we're happy. So you buy products and you say, my life's going to be fucking great when I buy these new chairs. And then you get your new chairs and it's not different. You've just got new chairs. And then after a while, they're not your new chairs anymore. And you do it with a car, you do it with clothes. When I get my new coat, I'm going to be fucking amazing. And then you've got it and you're not.
Sounds like the start of Train Spotting, that what you're saying there, where it's like choose all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
items, like yeah.
But it's choose life, choose like there's messages in these films though, do you know, only the depth of them, isn't it? And be kind to other people. Like, I get so much of a buzz. Like, I used to try and rescue people a lot, where I don't anymore. I'm not a rescuer. I have empathy for people. I try and see it through their eyes, and I try and get them to see the goodness in them. I try and get them to see the belief. And when I see a client completely change their outlook in life, and I see them being successful, I see them being confident, that's the best thing. And money cannot buy that. They might say different because they've invested in themselves coming here, but that feeling, I can't go out and purchase anything to feel that feeling of seeing another human go out into the world with self-belief, with self-love. They've got better relationships. They believe in themselves more. They make more money. All these things come with it every single time. Because how can it not? If you're backing you, if you're your number one fan, if you love yourself but not in a narcissistic way, enough to care about yourself, that fits into then the people around you, doesn't it? So you're confident for them, you're good for them. So see, it spreads. And then they go, well, how are you doing that? And then you teach them that. And that's how it should go. It should snowball in society. But what you get now is people going, oh, you're knobhead. Why are you doing that? So they're the people who you'd avoid. You'd avoid the people who speak like your thoughts. Because when you avoid that, you haven't got the external sort of reflecting on the internal stuff going, oh, you're right thinking that. If you've got people who are bad for you that are around you, get rid of them. Doesn't matter who they are. And you've got to be cold with some of it. You've got to take the sugar coating off, because there's people out there who live their lives off destroying others. There's people out there who want to put you down just to make themselves feel better. And that's because, yeah, they might have had bad upbringings. They might have gone through loads of emotional pain, but they need to do the work on themselves, because if they don't, they cause harm to others. If I cause harm to anyone, I'll apologize. I'll explain myself. I'll sort of, but if it's defending yourself, then that's different. Some people don't need apologies. Some people don't need that explanation, because as an adult, we shouldn't have to be explained as much. Now, when you've got to over-explain to another adult that they've hurt you or they've harmed you, straight away, that should be alarm bells. If they don't fucking get it, then that's their problem, not yours. So see how much relief you'll get from that. So it's
Right.
creating a new world of good people. It's socializing with genuinely good people who want you to be happy. You want them to be happy. So see the equality. So we've got to thrive for equality of treating people how you want to be treated.
It can sometimes take you a long time to find that as well. You can get to a certain point in your life where you've only ever known one way of living. Like I said earlier, like one group of friends. What you only have one family. It's
But
just
this is like our awakening, our enlightenment, all these things that people say, all like the words people use. It's like, as an adult, this is what I feel as becoming a man. I said for years and years, I was like, when do you actually feel like a man? I felt like a boy still, I think, when I was in my 30s. But like, when you become a man, It's because you've got this wisdom then to understand your mistakes in life. You've got that understanding of making sense of it all, but then you've got the understanding of how other people impact you. So if you're helping people all the time and they've got no time for you, or they make you feel like shit, why are you still helping them? Because see, it goes into childhood then of trying to people please someone who can't be pleased. And if your thoughts are saying you can't be pleased, if your thoughts are saying you've got to be perfect, but everyone around you hasn't, then it's attacking you, it's not attacking them.
I think
So it's embracing other people and embracing what they do and giving them encouragement. Have patience with people as well, have patience with yourself. Because when someone's learning, have a bit of patience with them, because that'll reflect into you then, won't it? Most people are brilliant at this, by the way, of showing others empathy. So I'll say to people, would you demand this off your kids? Would you speak to your kids the way you speak to yourself? And they go, no, no, of course I wouldn't. And that's another word they use, of course I wouldn't. So if of course I wouldn't speak to someone externally that way, why is it acceptable to speak to you that way? See the damage you cause? So that's the self-sabotage. That's the main part of it. And all the things of it. Why is it so hard for us to be nice to ourselves? That's the number one question people need to ask themselves. Why is it so hard to be nice to myself? Why is it so hard to respect myself?
and maybe also like what's stopping me from being nice to myself? Like
Well,
where
it's the thought. We know it. Because I
yeah,
don't want you asking yourself the thoughts, because the thoughts will give you bullshit answers, you see. So it's about knowing. That's the thing. When you know, so you know what you want to eat, you know where you want to go, you know what clothes you're going to buy. So see, you're more confident then in making decisions, aren't you? But if
yeah.
you've got to have a debate about it and go, should I get this? Should I get that? Oh my God, oh, I can't be asked. I just won't have nothing. People do this every night when they're eating, when they're on their own. Even if you're making a meal for one, make it nice for yourself. Make a nice meal for yourself. It doesn't mean you've got to have toast because you haven't got to cook for anyone else. If you like toast, have toast. But what I'm getting at is like, be nice to yourself.
Well, Jordan Peterson has the chapter in his book 12 Rules for Life, doesn't he? Treat others as you would wish to be treated.
Mhm.
Exactly that.
There's loads of people out there where it's, and as I say to everyone, and I'll come to the end now, but it's do your own research. Don't quote other people as much as you think. You learn off them because your perception is only yours. So I learn off so much. I love listening to Jordan Peterson. Gabor Mate is probably my number one because I love the way he speaks and he's so wise. Eckhart Tolle, all these other people out there. There's so much information, but it's how you perceive it. So all of them are saying the same thing. Really, is about self belief. Even what's his name, Joe Dispenza. He's good as well. But it's like all these people are motivating you, but they're not more powerful than you because otherwise you're doing the same thing as religion. It's not about making someone into a guru. It's not about making someone. We've all got the same powers. We've all got the same systems inside us. No one is better than another person. If you do the work on you, you will reap the rewards. It's as simple as that. It's not about thinking you're Jesus. It's not about thinking you're the Messiah. It's not about all this shit because that's our ego. It's about what we think about ourselves. And if you're in safe environments, if you've got good relationships, you feel okay. If you're around toxicity, if you're around people who argue or cause drama, why? Why are you around that? Normally because it feels normal. So don't be around people who can't change. That's one of my pet hate words. Someone says I can't change because you can. It's so dangerous telling yourself you can't change because you change every day,
I want to
whether
just,
you want to or not.
oh yeah, exactly. I do, and that's like a pretty amazing place to finish on. The only last question I had was, and obviously I'm going to put links to your profile on this as well, so people can get in touch with you if they want to
Yeah.
find out more or have any questions or want to, start sessions with you, that kind of thing. But like, just finally on the tools and resources, you mentioned a few people there that you really like. Are there any other like useful tools and resources that you want to recommend to people? Any podcasts or people in the industry that you really like?
So obviously, if people watch this video 5 times a day, I don't know. It's
Yeah, yeah. Just keep
there's
refreshing on different
yeah,
browsers.
no, there's loads of different things. But what I always say to my clients is, no one should be able to tell you what you like. I want people to know themselves, and you start trusting your mind rather than your thoughts. So if I like something, I know it rather than have to think about it. If I eat something, I don't need to go, oh my God, is this nice? Or is that me taste buds tell me, don't they? So there's loads of examples of it. I'm trying to empower people as an individual for themselves. So I want them to find their own answers. I want them to search for their own answers. That's what builds your self-esteem up. Look at the world and look at the bullshit you've been told. We're bullshitted a lot. So the more you research, the more you question everything, literally question everything. When you question everything, probably make you feel like you're going a little bit mad because you'll start getting your truth. People are terrified of the truth. I'm not. I don't fear the truth. I'd rather know the truth than to be lied to, than to be manipulated, to be all these other things. So I don't watch the news. I don't watch because you get pulled into it. I'm sick of hearing another disease that's going to kill us all or another war. I've had this since I've been born.
Yeah, yeah,
Or you get anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. Then you're watching programs and it's drama, 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 drama. That's not real life. Real life is quite boring. Real life is just existing. We're insignificant unless we make ourselves significant. And it hasn't got to be to the world, it's just to ourselves. You need a purpose in life, you create one.
I love
We're
that.
not here for anything else. There's fucking billions of people on earth, and we can live and we can die without anyone ever even knowing who we are. So if you want to be important to yourself, create that for you. As long as you die and you've lived your life and you've done loads of things and you've felt fulfilled and you've had loads of enjoyment and excitement, then you've lived.
That's brilliant. Well, I don't think we should say anything else. I'm literally just going to cut it
Yeah,
there because that's such a
brilliant.
great place to finish. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Same again. Thank you for doing this with me, and you're brilliant.
Yeah,
So
I've
thank
loved
you.
it. Viewers are going to love it. So yeah, thank you once again.